The big question is the government simply in denial over the scale of the economic crisis. And joining us now is Manish Tiwari of the Congress, its spokesperson and Lok Sabha MP, and Piyush Goyal, Rajya Sabha MP of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Appreciate both of you joining us on our talking point and our face-off today. Manish Tiwari, it appears that the government is in denial on the economy. Standard & Poor's warns against a downgrade. The Finance Ministry's response, don't worry, we will handle our own problems. A turnaround is just around the corner. Surely, there should have been a greater sense of urgency, seriousness of what is happening to the economy. Why is your government in denial?
Well, Rajdeep, allow me to first of all point out that Standard & Poor's is a rating agency, much like other rating agencies, which periodically come out with their reports. So therefore, it is not something, which is gospel or which is cast in stone. Yes, they have a certain opinion. They are entitled to their opinion, and they have articulated it. Having said that, let me also point out that Standard & Poor's gave India investment grade status only in 2007. This is 16 years after India's reform program commenced. And even now, in that report, if you read it carefully, they are not talking about a downgrade. They are saying that if certain things do not happen, then maybe 2 years down the line, we may have to consider a downgrade. So therefore, you see the difficulty, Mr. Sardesai, is that unfortunately, people tend to read the headline and not read the fine print of the report. I would request you to read the fine print of that 14-page report, before we jump to any conclusions.
Sorry to interrupt. For the last 6 months, whenever we've interviewed someone from the government, the precise reaction is what you're reacting now. The first reaction is all is well, turnaround is around the corner. Why not be honest and admit there is a serious problem rather than talk up the economy or suggest that Standard & Poor a fine print is different to the headline? All of it is pointing to a crisis which your government is not admitting.
Mr. Sardesai, the problem is that it has become fashionable to talk down the economy these days. Allow me to point out some basic numbers. If you look at the PMI numbers, the Purchase Managers Index numbers for the major economies which have come in across the world, earlier this month, PMI numbers for every economy, including China, is down. The reason for that is that, these are producing economies. So when the consuming economies go down, there is a cyclical effect, and India is not divorced from that. So having said that, the fundamental principles of India's economy are strong. Yes, there is a need. There is a need to take certain initiatives. The government is in the process of trying to take those initiatives with regard to PFRDA and certain other signals which the global investment community is looking at. But to say, that there is gloom and doom and the whole world is crumbling and tumbling on top of us, I think is a gross exaggeration. And that's why I would like to request you not to talk down the economy.
Economic growth rate figures are down to an all-time low since 2008. Industrial production has virtually plateaued. Piyush Goyal, it appears that Manish Tiwari is not going to admit that the economy is in serious problem. The government in denial, but one would say that the opposition also perpetuating an air of negativism. You will say the government is racked with policy paralysis, but yet you are unwilling to support the government on a single policy initiative, be it GST, FDI and retail, oil price rationalization. It takes two to tango.
Rajdeep, it is the responsibility of the government, first of all, to have a cogent agenda before the nation, how they are going to bring the economy out of the morass in which they have brought us in the last 3 years of complete misgovernance and policy flip-flop and paralysis. Manish may very well say that it is fashionable to criticize, but it's people in the government, it's the economic advisor of the government who is telling us the truth, who is telling us what the situation is. And when in January 2007, Standard & Poor's upgraded the rating, Mr. Chidambaram, Finance Minister, said that the rating was an acknowledgement of India's improving macroeconomic stability and strength. So when it goes up, they are happy to acknowledge the rating. When it goes down, they are ready to deride it. And there's no fine print. Every fine print in this report, I read the whole report. It talks of poor quality of nation's political leadership. It shows there's a political vacuum. The government policies are aimed to benefit politically well-connected firms, and the corruption scandals leave absolutely no confidence in the economy.
But Piyush, you're not answering my question.
The BJP,
Piyush, I think we agree that Standard and Poor is an indictment of the way the economy is being run. But is the BJP willing to work with the government, or are you going to be obstructionist on policy initiatives?
Rajdeep, our friend Manish spoke of pension reform.
Yes.
They introduced the pension reform in the House. They didn't have the numbers to back it up. It was the BJP which came to their rescue in March 11 to allow the bill to be introduced. The BJP supports that bill because of pressure of their ally Trinamool Congress. Last week in the cabinet, the item was listed as the third item. It was unceremoniously dropped without discussion.
Right.
The banking reforms, we don't see anything coming from the government. They have not been able to approve it in the cabinet. The insurance reforms, the cabinet deferred it about a month ago, despite the fact that the standing committee has come out with clear issues about in the insurance laws, about which we feel strongly.
Okay.
On DTC, we have come out with a report which the finance minister has hailed as an excellent report. Why doesn't he accept that and come out with the DTC?
Okay.
And finally, GST. We are currently discussing all the issues in GST need to be addressed by the central government. The states do not trust the central government's sincerity of purpose. I think the government needs to sit down with the opposition, all the political parties. We can come to a consensus on GST if only the government
points are well taken.
Sincere dialogue.
You're saying you're ready for a dialogue on the economy. No, Manish Tiwari, the UPA will blame the opposition, you will blame coalition partners, you will blame the Eurozone crisis, you will probably blame even Standard and Poor. But the fact is, as the S&P report suggests, it's time to take a hard look at yourselves. The report says the division of roles between the politically powerful Congress president and an appointed prime minister has weakened the framework for making economic policy. The prime minister, it says, has limited ability to influence his colleagues. There is benefits have been handed over to favored businessmen. These are all hard indictment of your government's policy, which has nothing to do with coalition pressures, nothing to do with the international economic situation. Is the Congress and the government ready to face up to certain harsh realities?
Now, Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, allow me the privilege of answering you without interruption and without you trying to jump down my throat.
Yes.
First of all, I think the report of Standard and Poor betrays a very basic lack of understanding and appreciation about India's democratic processes and governance systems. And the reason why I say that is, if you read page 4 of the report, it says that the Indian economy grew at 8.8% between 2004 and 2008 and 7.8% between 2009 and 2011. May I ask as to who was the chairperson of the UPA from 2004 to 2011? Was it not Mrs. Sonia Gandhi? Who was the Prime Minister of this country between 2004 and 2011? Wasn't it Dr. Manmohan Singh?
But something has gone wrong in the last 24 months.
No, again, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt.
Okay.
Have the patience to listen to an answer since you've asked a question.
Yes.
So therefore, if there was a disconnect, why is it that the economy, grew at record levels all throughout these 8 years? Now, coming to the specific questions which Mr. Piyush Goyal raised, with regard to PFRDA, yes, the Trinamool Congress feels, since they were not a part of the standing committee, so that they need to be heard. Government is hearing them out. Insofar as the insurance reform is concerned, the fundamental premise on the insurance reform was raising the FDI cap from 26 to 49%. The standing committee has shot it down. So obviously the government will have to look at it again.
What about leadership?
To whether the standing committee's report has to be taken on board or it has to be ignored.
Manish Tiwari, in a coalition government, you need strong leadership.
On DTC,
a coalition government needs strong political leadership. 1991, we were able to recover from the economy because Narasimha Rao provided that strong leadership as Prime Minister and a backup to Manmohan Singh as Finance Minister. Where is that strong political leadership today? To take the tough decisions.
Rajdeep, you're a friend of mine,
yes,
and I appreciate your political instincts. But please do not parrot the Standard and Poor report word to word. The fact is that if there would not have been strong political leadership, the Indian economy wouldn't have grown at the record level it grew in the last 8 years. Obviously, the political impetus, the backing, the support was all there. Unfortunately, the global economy went into a downturn in 2008, 2009. You've still come out relatively unscathed. So therefore, the fundamentals have not changed. But yes, as I earlier pointed out, it is fashionable these days because we are in the 9th year of government, for people to take pot shots at us. Yes, we accept it, we take it in our stride, and we will implement all those measures which are necessary to revive domestic demand and send out the right signals to the international investors.
Okay, every criticism is not a pot shot, but Mr. Piyush Goyal, can we also have a minimum consensus on these key reform issues? You've told us on this program that the BJP is ready to go along with the government on pension, that you're ready in a sense with your stand on GST to work with the government on GST, on the direct tax code. Is this only for a television studio, or will this actually be implemented at a time of a national crisis? And some would say when the economy is growing at the rate it is at the moment, it is a national crisis. Can the government and the opposition work together, or are you actually enjoying the discomfiture which the government finds itself in?
Rajdeep, no right-minded Indian citizen can enjoy the present situation. We are currently standing at the cusp of a disaster very akin to the 91 story. The rupee is depreciating fast, current account deficit is growing, fiscal deficits are high, the foreign exchange reserves are falling, the confidence in the economy is gone, there is political turmoil within the ruling party. Every parameter, and I said it in the floor of the House, points to a 91 repeat. At this kind of a situation, if you look back in 91 also, it was the BJP which supported Mr. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh to come out of this mess. I say this with authority, and my party president has said this to the Prime Minister 4 days ago, and I am saying it publicly. We are ready to engage with the government in a constructive dialogue to come to solutions. Let them come to us with proposals. Either we shall prove them that we are saying the right thing, or they prove to us that they are saying the right thing. We are happy to accept. Coming to what Tiwari said, Mr. Manish Tiwari said, even on insurance, the entire committee, which included the Congress and UPA members in a majority, was convinced at the end of the government presentation that insurance should not be increased from 26 to 49 because the guidelines that were required to be put in place were not being proposed by the government. As regards pension or banking, they are responsible for not bringing it on the floor of the House. In GST, the sincerity of the government, they are not recompensing the states, they are not protecting the fiscal autonomy of the states. So they have to really answer. I don't have to answer. They have to come to us with a proposal, and we are happy to engage.
Piyush Goyal, point taken. I'm going to give you the final word, Manish Tiwari. Is the government, we are now being told that possibly the finance minister could become the next president of India. We'll have a new finance minister. Is there a sense of urgency in the government about the crisis, or do you see any criticism, as you've said on this program, as a pot shot? 30 seconds.
First of all, allow me to dispel, this notion of doom which Mr. Piyush Goyal was trying to paint and articulate. Even the Standard & Poor report very clearly points out that we are nowhere near the 1991 situation. You have foreign exchange reserves which can cover 7 months of all your external payments. All the other fundamentals are strong. But yes, you have certain naysayers and certain prophets of doom who take vicarious pleasure in speaking with a forked tongue, talking about cooperation on one hand and actually doing everything to undermine confidence in the Indian economy on the other. Number two, within the parameters of this framework, all that needs to be done, to return the Indian economy to the benchmarks that we set for ourselves. 9% economic growth was what the UPA did. Nobody else did that, or it was driven by anybody else. So we will return the Indian economy to the benchmarks that we set for ourselves between 2004 and 2011.
Well, we are back to those words. Don't worry, we are in charge. Don't worry, be happy in a sense. But clearly, we live in difficult times, Manish Tiwari and Piyush Goyal. And we expect that the fine words that you've said on this program today will actually be implemented in practice. We need a national common minimum program in a sense when it comes to economic decision making. Thanks very much for joining us on our Face Off today.